The galaxy believed humans were naive. They were newcomers, late to interstellar travel, inexperienced in diplomacy, and strangely obsessed with cooperation. While other civilizations expanded through conquest or domination, humanity offered something unheard of: partnership. The Galactic Council mocked them quietly. Too soft, the Velcari whispered through their neural networks. Too emotional, the cold, crystalline Threx observed. Yet humans persisted, extending invitations for trade, research, and cultural exchange. Many species accepted cautiously. A few even admired humanity's resilience. They had risen from a fragile world filled with storms, predators, and endless conflict. Somehow, they had unified enough to reach the stars. But not everyone believed in peace. Among the council sat Ambassador Carell of the Cythery Dominion, a species known for their elegance and ruthless ambition. The Cythery had evolved on a high-gravity world where survival required precision, calculation, and an absence of hesitation. Mercy was considered inefficient. Trust was considered dangerous. Carell studied humanity carefully. He saw not kindness, but vulnerability. Humans revealed too much. They shared scientific breakthroughs openly, trusted too easily, and welcomed alien delegations onto Earth without suspicion. Their diplomats smiled often. Their scientists published freely. Their fleets remained visibly defensive rather than intimidating. To Carell, humanity wasn't noble. They were exposed. And exposed civilizations did not survive long in a galaxy built on advantage. Behind closed doors, Carell began negotiating secret agreements with rival powers. He leaked portions of human defensive schematics, subtly altered treaty clauses, and planted seeds of doubt among council members. Small changes created large consequences. Misinterpreted signals, delayed communications, misaligned expectations. Quietly, carefully, he prepared the stage for betrayal. The plan was simple: weaken humanity's alliances, isolate their systems, then force them into dependency. Once dependent, humans could be controlled without open conflict. It was efficient, clean, predictable. A civilization built on trust would collapse under betrayal, or so he believed. Months passed before the trap was sprung. Several border colonies reported mysterious communication failures. Trade routes became unreliable. Supply ships vanished between jump points. Navigation data became corrupted in ways that suggested human interference. Human diplomats remained calm. Too calm. Carell watched from the council chamber as the human ambassador, a woman named Mara Ellison, listened to accusations from multiple species claiming humans had violated trade protocols. Evidence appeared damning. Encrypted messages traced back to human networks. Defense fleets repositioned in ways that looked suspiciously aggressive. Carell almost admired the elegance of the deception. Humanity was being framed perfectly. Pressure mounted. Sanctions were proposed. Isolation began. And still, humanity did not react with anger. Instead, Ambassador Ellison requested time. "Humanity believes this situation can be resolved peacefully," she said, her voice steady despite the rising tension filling the chamber. Carell nearly smiled. Peace was the weakness he had counted on. 3 cycles later, the Council voted to suspend human access to shared warp corridors. Trade collapsed overnight. Ships were stranded. Resources dwindled. Human colonies faced shortages within weeks. Carell expected panic. Instead, humanity grew quieter. Research stations ceased broadcasting routine updates. Military fleets withdrew from public tracking networks. Human news feeds went dark. Entire sectors reported silence. The galaxy interpreted this as collapse. "They are retreating," one council member declared. "They are afraid," said another. Carrel allowed himself satisfaction. The first alien to betray humanity would be remembered as the architect of their fall. But far beyond council observation, something unexpected was happening. Humanity was not retreating. Humanity was preparing. Silence unsettled the galaxy. Human communication networks, once alive with music, debates, research exchanges, and curious questions about alien cultures, suddenly became still. Frequencies that had carried laughter, scientific discoveries, and collaborative invitations now returned only automated acknowledgments. Where humanity had once spoken constantly, now there was nothing. No complaints. No protests. No pleas for assistance. Just silence. To many within the Galactic Council, the explanation seemed obvious. Isolation had weakened humanity faster than expected. Without access to shared warp corridors and interspecies trade routes, human colonies would struggle to maintain technological infrastructure. Their economy depended heavily on cooperative exchange, and the removal of those connections would slowly suffocate their expansion. Ambassador Carrel considered the silence confirmation that his strategy had succeeded. Humans, he believed, were emotional beings. Emotional species reacted loudly to crisis. They sought sympathy. They negotiated urgently. They displayed desperation. But humanity did none of those things. Instead, they adapted. Supply chain disruptions that should have crippled remote colonies were somehow stabilized. Agricultural habitats began operating in fully closed ecological loops. Mining facilities increased output efficiency using unknown extraction techniques. Manufacturing stations produced new alloys that did not match any previously shared human research data. Energy consumption across human systems increased dramatically. Yet no requests for external resources were issued. No distress signals transmitted. No appeals made. The silence continued. Independent observers began reporting unusual activity in sectors historically occupied by human research stations. Sensor drones detected increased gravitational distortions near experimental facilities, but attempts to gather detailed scans failed. Encrypted shielding surrounded human infrastructure more advanced than anything previously seen from them. Human ships traveled between systems, but their warp signatures appeared different. Normally, faster-than-light travel left predictable distortions in space-time, easily traceable by long-range detection networks. Human vessels now appeared without warning and disappeared without measurable departure signatures. Some council analysts dismissed the reports as instrumentation errors. Others grew concerned. Carrel requested intelligence updates repeatedly, but the information remained incomplete. Humanity had once openly shared their advancements, believing mutual progress benefited all species. Now they shared nothing. Their research databases, once publicly accessible, were sealed behind encryption layers that even council-level AI could not penetrate. Months passed. Still, no retaliation came. No fleets mobilized. No threats issued. Instead, scattered reports began emerging from neutral territories. Pirate activity along independent trade corridors began declining sharply. Unidentified vessels intervened during attempted raids, disabling weapons and propulsion systems without visible force signatures. Ships were immobilized instantly. Communications disrupted completely. No damage to crew. No loss of life. Only total operational failure. Witnesses described sleek vessels with unfamiliar geometry, surfaces absorbing sensor signals rather than reflecting them. No insignias. No weapon arrays. No warnings. After intervention, the ships simply departed. No claim of responsibility. No diplomatic statement. Just continued silence. Gradually, patterns formed. Where instability threatened trade routes, the mysterious ships appeared. Where disputes escalated toward violence, conflict ended abruptly, efficiently, cleanly, without spectacle, without recognition. The galaxy began whispering a possibility few had considered. Humans were still present. They were simply no longer visible. Ambassador Mora Ellison eventually returned to the council chamber after nearly a year of absence. Her posture remained calm, her expression unreadable. "We acknowledge the council's decision regarding trade access," she stated evenly. Several members expected protest. She offered none. Instead, she continued, "Humanity has adjusted to its new position. Nothing more. No request for reconsideration. No argument. No accusation. Only certainty." For the first time since implementing his strategy, Carrel felt uncertainty. He had expected resistance. He had anticipated diplomatic maneuvering. He had predicted emotional appeals. Instead, humanity had accepted isolation and evolved within it. The silence had not been surrender. It had been transformation. And Carrel began to understand something deeply unsettling. Humans did not fear being alone. They feared being unprepared. Now, they were no longer unprepared. The silence had not weakened them. The silence had focused them. Carrel no longer trusted the reports delivered to the council. Too many inconsistencies. Too many unknowns. Too many quiet changes occurring beyond the reach of shared intelligence networks. Humanity had not simply withdrawn from galactic affairs. They had removed themselves from observation. For a species that once broadcast scientific lectures freely across public frequencies, the shift was deeply unsettling. Carrel began accessing historical archives on humanity, searching for patterns he may have overlooked. What he found disturbed him. Human progress had never been linear. Unlike most advanced civilizations, humanity did not evolve under stable planetary conditions. Their homeworld was chaotic. Volatile weather cycles, shifting ecosystems, competing predators, and limited resources. Their early history was defined by constant struggle against extinction. Ice ages nearly erased them. Pandemics reshaped their societies. Wars devastated entire continents. Yet each crisis had accelerated innovation. Pressure did not slow humanity. Pressure sharpened humanity. Their greatest technological leaps occurred during moments of desperation. Medical revolutions emerged from plagues. Spaceflight advanced through geopolitical rivalry. Artificial intelligence matured through competition rather than cooperation. Humans did not merely survive difficulty. They refined themselves through it. Carrel began to understand that isolation may not have weakened humanity at all. It may have optimized them. Without reliance on shared supply chains, human engineers redesigned production methods for independence. Materials once imported were now synthesized. Energy systems were redesigned for efficiency over comfort. Entire colonies shifted toward closed-loop sustainability models capable of functioning indefinitely without external assistance. Human ships also began displaying unfamiliar design philosophy. Most species constructed vessels with visible weapon systems as deterrents. Human vessels now displayed none. No visible cannons. No missile arrays. No energy emitters. Yet encounters with pirate factions revealed a terrifying capability. Entire raiding fleets lost propulsion simultaneously. Targeting systems malfunctioned. Navigation arrays returned corrupted data. Crew members reported temporary sensory disorientation without physical harm. No projectiles were detected. No energy beams recorded. No radiation spikes measured. Just total technological failure. Then silence. Human ships did not communicate. They simply ensured stability and departed. Even more disturbing was their precision. Human interventions minimized casualties to zero whenever possible. Hostile ships were disabled but never destroyed unless absolutely necessary. Medical vessels often appeared minutes after conflicts ended, offering assistance even to aggressors. Carrel reviewed incident logs repeatedly. Humanity was demonstrating power, but carefully restrained power. Power without cruelty. Power without spectacle. Power without intimidation displays. It was unlike any military doctrine known within the Council. Human strategy appeared focused not on domination, but on control of escalation. Conflicts ended before they could expand. Threats dissolved before they could organize. Destabilization attempts failed before gaining momentum. Humans had become something unexpected. Guardians. Independent guardians. Reports also indicated significant advancement in human interdisciplinary science. Human researchers had abandoned strict specialization models used by most species. Instead, teams combined fields rarely connected elsewhere. Psychologists collaborated with quantum engineers. Historians advised strategic analysts. Biologists contributed to materials science breakthroughs. Human thought patterns encouraged cross-domain creativity, allowing them to discover unconventional solutions faster than species restricted by rigid intellectual hierarchies. Carrel began to suspect that humanity's greatest strength was not technological. It was cognitive flexibility. They adapted not only tools, but perspectives. Their history had trained them to reconsider assumptions constantly, and Carrel had made a fatal assumption. He had believed cooperation defined human identity, but cooperation had only been one of many survival strategies. Another strategy had always existed beneath the surface: preparedness. Humanity did not seek conflict, but they prepared for it relentlessly, even during peace. Especially during peace. Now the consequences of betrayal were becoming visible across the stars. Regions once vulnerable to piracy stabilized under quiet human observation. Trade routes became safer despite humanity's formal isolation. Scientific progress accelerated within human territories beyond measurable benchmarks, and the most unsettling realization of all slowly formed in Carrel's mind. Humanity had not become more aggressive. They had become more capable than anyone had predicted. More capable, and far less dependent on approval from the Galactic Council. Carrel had attempted to isolate humanity. Instead, he had removed their distractions. He had given them exactly what their history had always used to grow stronger: pressure. And humans, throughout their entire existence, had never wasted pressure. Carrel first understood the true scale of his mistake when a Scythery intelligence outpost vanished. The station had been positioned near a minor trade corridor, hidden within the shadow of a collapsed star where sensor interference masked its presence. Its purpose was observation, quietly monitoring shifting alliances, trade patterns, and potential vulnerabilities among emerging civilizations. including humanity. The outpost had operated undetected for decades. Then, without warning, it disappeared. No distress signal. No debris field. No radiation spike. No trace of forced entry. One moment, the structure existed. The next, space itself seemed empty, as if the station had never been constructed. Sci-fi investigators deployed long-range scans capable of detecting even microscopic particulate remains. Nothing. Not a single fragment. Carrel reviewed the data personally, his composure maintained only through years of diplomatic discipline. Stations did not simply vanish. Even catastrophic warp core failures left residual distortions measurable for years. Here, there was absence. Clean absence. Shortly afterward, a message appeared across secured diplomatic channels shared only among Council representatives. Humanity protects its interests. No accusation. No elaboration. No demand. Only a statement. Carrel felt something unfamiliar stir beneath his calm exterior. Uncertainty. He ordered discreet inquiries among allied species. Quietly, he discovered the Sci-fi outpost had not been the only anomaly. A Velcari surveillance lattice positioned near a human research sector had suffered total systems collapse without physical damage. Every processor had failed simultaneously, memory banks erased beyond recovery. A Threx reconnaissance probe monitoring human shipyards returned corrupted telemetry showing impossible geometry within the facilities, structures existing briefly in spatial configurations that should not be physically stable. Reports from independent traders described fleeting glimpses of human vessels traveling without detectable propulsion signatures, bending gravitational fields in controlled arcs previously considered theoretical. Human advancement had not slowed during isolation. It had accelerated beyond predictive modeling. Carrel's allies began distancing themselves from his earlier proposals regarding continued restrictions on humanity. Several council members privately expressed concern that antagonizing a rapidly evolving civilization was strategically unsound. Trade representatives began reopening quiet communication channels with human economic envoys. Human responses were measured, polite, professional, but unmistakably different. Human agreements now included conditions ensuring operational independence from Council infrastructure, autonomous navigation corridors, independent communication relays, mutual recognition clauses emphasizing sovereignty rather than cooperation. Human diplomats no longer spoke from a position of hopeful inclusion. They spoke from stable self-sufficiency. The balance of influence had shifted. Carrel had intended to weaken humanity's negotiating leverage. Instead, he had removed the very dependencies that limited their strategic autonomy. Now humans no longer required approval for expansion. They no longer required shared infrastructure. They no longer required protection. Most troubling of all, humanity showed no desire for retaliation. No sanctions. No threats. No public condemnation. They simply adjusted the structure of their participation within the galaxy. Quietly redefining expectations, quietly redefining boundaries, quietly redefining power. Carrel attended the next council assembly with controlled composure, but he noticed subtle changes among other delegates. Species that once dismissed humanity as idealistic now reviewed human proposals with careful consideration. Some even deferred to human technical expertise during infrastructure discussions. Influence had shifted not through force, but through demonstrated capability. Carrel realized then that his strategy had produced the opposite of its intended effect. He had attempted to isolate humanity to weaken them. Instead, Isolation had refined them. He had attempted to undermine their confidence. Instead, he had removed their illusions. Humans had once believed trust alone ensured stability. Now they understood stability required preparedness. They still extended cooperation. But cooperation was now supported by undeniable strength. And strength, once demonstrated quietly and consistently, required no announcement. Carrel finally allowed himself to consider the possibility he had resisted for cycles. He had not merely failed to weaken humanity. He had accelerated their transformation into something far more resilient than the Council had anticipated. The first alien to betray humanity had not become its conqueror. He had become its catalyst, and catalysts rarely control the reactions they begin. Carrel requested a private audience with Ambassador Mora Ellison. The request itself felt unfamiliar. Cythery did not apologize. They recalculated. Yet recalculation now required direct understanding of the species he had attempted to manipulate. The meeting took place aboard a neutral diplomatic station orbiting a quiet blue star. No guards accompanied Ellison. No visible defensive technology surrounded the chamber. The room was simple, transparent alloy walls overlooking the distant glow of stellar radiation. Human design favored calm environments for important decisions. Carrel had once considered such preferences symbolic of weakness. Now he recognized them as evidence of confidence. Ellison greeted him without visible hostility. "Ambassador Carrel," she said evenly. Her tone contained no accusation, only acknowledgment. "I appreciate your willingness to meet," Carrel replied, carefully measuring each word. Cythery communication emphasized precision over emotional display, yet even he sensed the unusual weight of the conversation. "I misjudged your species." Ellison studied him for a moment, as if evaluating whether the statement was strategic or sincere. "Yes," she answered calmly. No triumph, no satisfaction, just confirmation. Carrel continued. "I believed cooperation made humanity predictable. I believed dependence created leverage. I believed removing your alliances would destabilize your expansion." Ellison inclined her head slightly. "And instead?" she asked. Carrel hesitated only briefly. Instead, humanity adapted faster than projected. Ellison allowed a small, almost sympathetic expression. "Adaptation is one of our oldest habits," she said. Carrel accessed linguistic archives. Human phrasing often contained layered meaning. Habits implied repetition. Repetition implied history. History implied experience. He had underestimated the depth of that experience. "You have not retaliated," Carrel observed. Ellison folded her hands calmly. "Retaliation consumes resources without improving stability," she replied. "Then why demonstrate such capability?" Carrel asked. Her answer came without hesitation. "Because stability requires clarity." Carrel processed the statement carefully. Clarity. Not dominance. Not revenge. Clarity. Humanity had not sought to punish the galaxy. They had sought to ensure no future miscalculations occurred. "We prefer cooperation," Ellison continued. "It produces better outcomes for all participants. Yet cooperation without preparedness invites exploitation." Carrel recognized the implicit reference to his own actions. "You changed," he said quietly. Ellison shook her head. "No," she replied. "We revealed a part of ourselves we hoped would not be necessary." Carrel felt an unfamiliar sensation ripple through his normally controlled cognition. Regret. He had believed exposing weakness would grant advantage. Instead, it had revealed hidden strength. Across the galaxy, new agreements began forming based on updated expectations. Human navigation corridors became widely respected as neutral pathways protected by advanced monitoring systems capable of preventing conflict escalation. Human scientific publications resumed sharing discoveries, but now included safeguards preventing misuse of sensitive technologies. Human diplomatic missions emphasized transparency balanced by firm boundaries. Humanity had not withdrawn from the galaxy. They had matured within it. Carrel's actions became case study material across multiple diplomatic academies, not as an example of villainy, but as demonstration of flawed assumption. Humanity was not naive. Humanity was patient. They had offered trust as an invitation, not as surrender. And when that trust was broken, they did not collapse. They adjusted. They refined. They prepared. During the closing assembly of the council cycle, Ambassador Ellison delivered a simple statement broadcast across shared diplomatic channels. Humanity seeks cooperation wherever possible. We ensure stability wherever necessary. The message contained no threat. It did not need one. The galaxy had already learned the lesson. Strength did not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes strength revealed itself only when tested, and the first alien who betrayed humanity became a permanent reminder echoed across countless civilizations. Humans preferred peace, but peace was never mistaken for weakness again.